All right. Please explain to the American what is your name and where you're from.
My name is David, and I'm from Hermosa Beach, California.
Okay, and what brought you here?
Well, I just want to show my respects for Charlie. You know, he influenced so many people, a lot of young people, especially people like my age and younger. You know, for the longest time, you know, I've always been like conservative, but for the longest time I've struggled with like marriage and my faith. When I started listening to him, it encouraged me to want to meet the love of my life and get married, and so I did.
Okay. What? Let's see. I'm watching my chat there. See any questions they want me to ask you too.
Yeah.
So besides you here for Charlie Kirk, to show support for Charlie Kirk, anything else? What else are you here for?
I'm here for Charlie Kirk. What happened to him was horrendous, and there's so much hate in this country. There's so much political violence, you know, and with respect to everybody here, I see a lot of political hats, you know, support. I'm not here for anybody else. As much as I love the president and it's cool to see him speak, I'm not here for him. I'm here to see and pay my respects to Charlie Kirk and his family. Okay. Exactly. You know, he made such an impact. You know, it's a tragedy when anybody loses their life. It doesn't matter what side you're on. So we need to kind of cut the crap with the mainstream media. We need to stop listening to their
the nonsense, the lies.
And, you know, we need to just kind of let the lies go in one ear and out the other. I'm sick of it, you know, and it's tainting this generation. This generation is full of people that don't think, they're not like-minded, and if you feed them a lie, you're going to get some crazy people out there that are going to believe it, so we need to stop it.
We need to take a knowledge understanding. There's a lot of fake news out there these days, and these governors and everybody keeps trying to lie to us. And there's a lot of American people are listening to the nonsense. It's not true, and that's what all I hear is from the other party. That's why I call them terrorist Democrat Party, because everything I hear from is always a bunch of violence and terrorist stuff. They support that kind of stuff. It needs to stop. I mean, we don't need to be fighting. We need to be working together, united, not divided. And that's what I see.
And that's just the case right there. You know, Charlie was all about, hey, if you disagree with me, come up to the mic.
Yeah, have
you
it
know, I think the idiot who did what he did should have picked up the mic instead of a rifle. Yeah. And for that, you know, he's going to get his day when he takes his last breath. But who knows? I'm not God. I can't say what's going to happen and what's not. But we're all going to have a day when we're going to have to answer to a power greater than ourselves, which I believe is Jesus Christ. And I think a lack thereof and not believing in God is the first part of the downfall of this country and the world in general.
And American people to understand, God has died for all on the cross for all our sinners.
Exactly.
We all sinners. We are. And so, is there anything else you'd like to say?
I know the sidewalk's full. If you're walking down the street, try to avoid it as much as you can. Thank you.
There goes Glendale PD right there.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's crazy what's going on right now, you know. We kind of need to just stay connected. We need to stay together as Americans, you know. Heaven forbid, you know, when there's a tragedy, just like what happened with 9/11, we all put our differences aside. We were all Americans. We all stood for the flag. And that's harder and harder to come across nowadays. Excuse me. When you start to tell the whole population that somebody is a Nazi or fascist or racist, you're going to get people that are going to believe that without the evidence, without it actually being true.
Yeah.
You know, if you tell an idiot that they could fly, they're going to think they could fly and jump off a cliff, and that's what's happening to this country right now.
That's one thing about 9/11, that, you know, it was a very sad day for everybody. It was. But I like the fact that a lot of American people united, not divided. And all Americans work together. Now it's based about race, and it's not. It shouldn't be. We're all lives matter. We all need to work together. It doesn't matter what party you're in. Because when 9/11, we didn't say, oh, are you a Democrat or are you an independent? No, we all came together as Americans.
Well, if I could speak for myself, so I'm a proud, before anything, I'm an American and I'm a child of God, right? Yep. But I am a proud Republican. I do have conservative values. But when I see a person, I see a human being. I don't see party. I don't see blue. I don't see red. You know, I like to have a conversation with anybody, and I don't care if you're Democrat, Republican. If you're hungry, I will feed you. If you need help, I will do my best to help you. You know. heaven forbid, like I've actually had conversations with other people from other parties, and people have called me a Nazi, they've called me a racist, no actual evidence. It just fits the narrative of, fake news networks like CNN, MSDNC, and stuff like that, But I've also talked to people on the other end of the spectrum who are liberals or Democrats. We can have actual conversations like, hey, I disagree with you here, I agree with you here, and we meet in the middle. We have some middle ground right there. So, that's the problem with politics and just everything in today's day and age.
And this is the thing is, between the terrorist Democrat Party, as American, as right now, we are all sitting here proudly united, and we're not doing no violence, we're not burning nothing down. That's how it should be. We're doing it peacefully, simply here. We're not doing anything wrong here.
Yeah, right. Well, I mean, to be fair, there is violence on both sides. There is. And I'm not gonna, me speaking for my party, and for my political affiliation, I've seen it on both sides. You can be an extremist in anything. You can be an extremist. When you hit the gym, you can do it too much, and you're on steroids, and then you look like an idiot because you're extreme with it. You can be extreme, by overeating, whatever the case may be. Anything can be extreme. Anything is bad. So I've seen it on both ends of either party. That's beyond the point. We're all Americans. I think we're all children of God, and we need to come together. And quite frankly, if this was somebody on the other end of the aisle, who lost their life, I would probably pay my respects to that person too. You should never wish death or ill will on anybody. That's
no one.
Just not,
Or just all this evil fighting and calling really nasty words. We don't need that. This is not that we need to be working together. And all we're doing is, it's pushing us away. Right. And then the thing is, now they're citing violence, and then they just made a bomb threat at the USC. Come on, we don't need that stuff.
Yeah, it's they're tolerant until you disagree with them. So I mean, a majority of them, and it's usually the very radicals. Like I have some friends and members of my family that lean left, they vote Democrat. But hey, we disagree on this, we disagree on that. But at the end of the day, you're my friend, you're my brother. I'll take a bullet for you. You're an American. I really don't care what your politics are, but, and that goes for my party too. If I see somebody in my party wearing a red hat and they're saying racist crap, I'll say, hey, dude, you need to knock it off. You need to not say that. I don't care if you're wearing a MAGA hat. I don't care if you're wearing a freaking Kamala hat. I don't care if you're wearing a Democrat or Republican hat.
I don't care what party you're from.
If you're saying racist crap, I'm going to say, look, you need to knock it off, And not just racist stuff, but, just dumb stuff in general. I have to catch myself sometimes when I say stupid stuff, when I whatever, but we're all human, There's no need to dehumanize the other end of the spectrum because they're, going to be looked upon in a negative way as society and less than humans, and that's what happened this past week. We had a great gentleman who spoke for the truth. Unfortunately, he lost his life because he was dehumanized and deemed a fascist or a Nazi by people who are ill-educated. All
right, so what are you going to do going forward in life? What are you going to do going forward after tomorrow? What are you going to do? Besides just sitting back and...
First of all, each and every day I try to examine my life and I try to take an inventory on what I do good and what I do wrong. Just me as a person, when I make a mistake, I try to admit it first and I try to say, hey, I was wrong. I try to, turn away from, what I'm doing. But I guess mainly going forward is I'm going to try to not take stuff for granted because it can be gone in an instant. You can lose everything. I try to be a good husband to my wife every single day, but I fall short. I try to be a good dad to my daughter every single day when I can, but I fall short. I try to just be if I see an area where I could be of service and help somebody, I want to try to take it, because it could all be gone tomorrow. I want to honor and remember Charlie's legacy. I'm always going to stand for the flag. I'm always going to kneel for the cross, and I'm always going to speak for the voices that don't have voices yet, who are unborn children. They do not deserve to die. They are more than a blessing, right? And there's a lot of fake news propagated in regards to that topic. So stand for, unborn children. I'm never going to support abortion. I never will, but also I want to pray for those who abort, who murder, pray for those who sin, who hate, who pick up guns and kill people. Because as much as we want justice, as much as we want them in jail or to face some sort of penalty, unfortunately, God still has a heart for them, and we need to pray for them as well. And I think that's overlooked, especially amongst Christians, because we're quick to say death penalty, jail, take them out, beat them up. We can't have that. We need to pray for those people as well. That's all I have to say.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, young man, for the interview today. And if you want to go back